going to continue the game, and my presentation is going to be about the selection criteria and the selection process, right? This is interesting because as Joy pointed out a while ago, this is an innovation, and precisely because of that, some of the possibilities of this project have not been anticipated with that level of detail. But what we are sure about is what is the spirit of the project and what we want. But this is hopefully going to be very clear in the presentation I'm going to make about the selection. Okay? So, how will the proposals be assessed? There is going to be a transparent process, and transparent by that I mean everything that I'm going to present here is going to be disseminated publicly through the webpage, and very likely it's going to be also going to be sent out to the organizations that have registered in the webpage. Okay. The project is part of the Global Services Promotion Program, which is a project led by the Ministry of Planning that is funded with a loan from the IDB. Therefore, in the end, we're talking about allocation of public funds, allocation of public funds from the Ministry of Planning that are financed by an IDB loan, right? So transparency is key. What we're going to do in terms of the allocation is that there's going to be a selection panel. The membership of the selection panel is going to be composed of members that are from the private sector and from the public sector. There's going to be experts in the industry and experts in skills development. And there's going to be local experts and international experts. So we're going to have a composition that is going to be varied in all those fronts. The IDB and the program execution unit of the Global Services Promotion Program presented a panel of members to the Ministry of Planning that was already approved, but the members haven't really confirmed their participation. Okay. So we are still not, as of at the moment I'm talking to you right now, I don't know what is going to be the final composition of individuals that are going to be part of the panel, but what is going to happen is there are going to be members that have the characteristics that I just mentioned, okay? Having public and private members, the benefit is obvious, right? This is public funds, but for private sector development. Having skills experts and experts in the industry is also obvious, because we want people that understand how to see a panel and understand whether the quality assurance part of it is important. But also we want people that are able to chip in and say, this is actually not relevant, this technology is outdated, or this is actually cutting edge and super cool, right? And on the other hand, the international and local composition was important for us for two reasons. One was the fact that this is a project that has a spirit of also of internationalization. So, and we also know that the type of skills that are needed to grow this industry are not necessarily local. So we wanted to have international members that had a view of what's going in the outside world. But also, it also has to do with the size of this country. Believe me that it is not so easy not to find conflicts of interest, and not because there is a problem, but it's a small country. Everybody knows each other. So we wanted to have people that have no clue who's there, and we're going to have that, okay? We want people that are from Trinidad, obviously. We cannot have people from Kazakhstan deciding what's best for Trinidad, right? But we want foreigners saying, without, so sometimes you have preconceptions even if you don't notice them. So we want that, and I was very pleased that we showed this to the Ministry of Planning, and they said, I love this idea, okay? But we haven't confirmed who's gonna be there, okay? So but this is what's going to happen. This is public. It is stated, and you can see in the and this is going to be published. So this is the criteria of the members that are going to be in the panel. Okay. I don't know if we're going to identify them by name. I don't think that's a good idea. But we're going to say characterize the people. Okay. But of course, the final say on this is not me, it's the Ministry of Planning, okay? So this is not working. We have IT problems. Need digital skills. So what is yeah. Ah, it's a good question. I don't know. It should be, right? Yes, it should be. Yeah. Good at this. Okay. so that they have digital skills. They know what they're, yeah. What are the dimensions that are going to be assessed when you present a proposal? This table is listed in the proposal template. When you look at the proposal template that is already posted on the web page, I encourage you to navigate through it. There are lots of interesting annexes that were prepared by the team to support the project. These are the dimensions that we listed, right? So when you present the proposal, it was a very clever idea from Kim, who was basically the spirit behind this part of the project, was to say, hey, when you present the proposal, you're going to tell us in what parts of your proposal you're addressing each of these topics, each of these dimensions. Okay, I'm going to describe what they mean in a minute. Okay, the first one is relevance. The second is the universe of beneficiaries and spillovers, basically the scope of the program. The design of the project, and I'm going to stop on that because this is very, very important for us, not only in terms of the implementation, but also in terms of the disbursement, of the way that the money is going to be disbursed. Of course, the budget and the cost, the quality assurance dimensions, and the sustainability. Okay. Nothing. I mean, if you look at this is the kind of topics that in which all the IDB projects are evaluated in some way. It's very standard. Okay. So, but for us, what does relevance mean? Relevance is a question about why your project matters for the economic diversification of Trinidad and Tobago. Right? So if I have a beautiful project that is very well written, that is super cost effective, that is fantastic, but it is to develop skills in cuisine or in the petrochemical industry, maybe I'm not going to be so interested because I want a project that helps grow the IT-enabled services sector, right? So how important are the skills? So the questions that we're going to be addressing are of this sort, and this is going to be published for everyone. I mean, I know what people could come here are going to be able to see this on the web page and in the video, right? How important are the skills gaps for the business's operation? I mean, for example, if you really don't seem to have a problem with skills gap and you are not able to going to prove it, maybe it's not such a maybe investing public funds in that kind of organization is not a very good idea. How much do they limit the internalization of growth of the ITeS sector, which is basically what I was mentioning a while ago? Is there a clear link between the skills needs and the skills solution? Basically, I don't know, your problem is about not having good marketing skills, but then your project is about customer service, right? So it's basically where the project matters, for not only for the country, for the ITeS sector, but also for you, right? You know, is the proposal addressing the skills gap presented in the diagnostic? So there's logical, there's some vertical logic, right? This is a problem I have. And this is a solution that that's going to address that specific problem within my organization. So the first bullet is about the relevance for the diversification agenda, which matters for the Ministry of Planning. And the second one is the relevance for your organization, for the business, for businesses, right? And the third one is there a need to subsidize the skills development program with public funding? Basically, it's a question about, well, if I'm going to, if I see if the first two items are important, but we're talking about IBM. Maybe all other things equal. If I imagine that we get two exact proposals, but the first one is for a small thriving industry that really needs the public subsidy, and the second one comes from, I don't know, IBM or something like that. Maybe the proposal is going to get, of the smaller guy, is going to get a higher score, right? Two identical proposals. One matters more for economic diversification, and the other one doesn't. The first one gets a higher score. That's the first check. The second one, two identical proposals, but one is better, except for the fact that one is better at showing that the skills need will improve their firm performance. The first one gets a better score. Then we have two identical proposals, but one is from a very, very big multinational, and the second one is not from a multinational, but from a thriving firm. The first one is going to get, the second one is going to get a higher score, right? So I'm not saying that these are eligibility criteria. These are just evaluation criteria, okay? You may not have this. You can participate in this contest, even if you don't meet all of these criteria. But this is criteria that is going to help you give you a better chance of getting the funding. Okay. Right. The second one has to do with the scope, right? The universe of beneficiaries. I mean, the amount of people that you're benefiting, and spillover potential. Again, I'm not going, this is evaluation criteria. It's not eligibility criteria, right? But of course, if you have a project that is going to benefit 100 people and the other one is going to benefit 1 million, well, the second one is better, all other things equal, right? Two identical projects, but one is better in scope, the second one is better, right? So basically, how large is the universe of beneficiaries? Will there be beneficiaries outside the participating partnership that will benefit due to spillovers? For example, somebody was asking a very interesting question yesterday, and that person was saying, look, I'm going to develop a new industry standard for my firm. So it's going to benefit only my firm, but if that industry standard exists and is permanent, then it might benefit future generations of workers. That's spillover potential. That's what we mean by that. What are the commitments in terms of labor market insertion or job creation for trainees made by the employers? Of course, I mean, if there is a project that is going to create jobs more directly, that's a good thing in terms of spillovers, right? Because it benefits not only the individual but also their dependents, etc. We're talking about, remember, it's this public funding. So we not only. So does the partnership involve one or more employers? That's a good thing because we're creating a community, a business community, something that we want, we care for, right? It's not a condition to participate in the program, but it's a good thing in terms of the score, right? Is there a transferable component in the contents of the skills training? Is it large or is it most of the training firm specific? Again, this is not a condition to be eligible to participate in the award, but it's a good thing if you have it. It will help you if you're not only training. Imagine that I'm training an individual only in a skill that is only useful in my business. I'm going to train that happens a lot where I work. You're going to learn how to do this ridiculous process that only the IDB does in the world. Nobody else does it, right? Because it's ridiculous, but we do it in the IDB. If we're going to spend money, so the skills that I'm going to get only work in the IDB. Whereas another project is going to do something that is smart and would help you have a job not only in the ADB but in other kinds of organizations. Well, we prefer the latter, right? Right? I don't think this is going to be a problem in this project, actually. I mean, IT-enabled services sector skills are very, very transferable and important everywhere, okay? Are there investments in activities that will most likely benefit the nation as a whole? Curriculum development is a good thing, right? Although, I must say, this is not necessarily a condition to participate in this project. We know that many of the programs that we are thinking about are training, and that's fine. We want that too, okay? But what I meant to say is, if you show me a project that has technical specific relevant skills that are important, that are, for example, to program a very sophisticated software, that's good. And if you show us that that is also, no, show us, no, I'm not going to be part of the panel, but show the panel that it is also something that is valuable in the labor market, that's a good thing, okay? And if there's also some component that lasts beyond what is beyond the current trainers. For example, if you say, oh, I'm going to design this training program, and with the money that you're giving us, we're going to train these people today, but the program is going to stay there, and we'll may use it in the future, even when the program is over. That's fantastic. If you say, oh, actually, we're partnering with a training provider, and the training provider is going to keep some of that for this curriculum, and we actually gave some very interesting input, so they're updating their curriculum, so they're not only benefiting my firm, but they're benefiting anybody who comes later. That is lovely. That is growth. That is skills development. That is the growth of the industry. Okay? This is the spirit of the project. Okay? And if, for example, you tell me, oh, actually, this program is so fantastic that it's actually going to help us find this new client, and we're going to create jobs. So with this program, we are training youth that are unemployed right now, but they're going to work with us. So we're going to actually hire them? Oh, my God, that would make us so happy, right? Or if you do something completely different, I'm actually going to design a new industry standard. I'm not going to train people now, but I'm going to design a new industry standard. That is also fantastic, okay? The third part is the project design and evaluability. This is important. And we're actually going to have a new set of clinics in which Joy and Kim are going to talk about this a lot. Because we care for this a lot. Why? First, because it's important. No, I mean, that you're able to, I mean, having great ideas is good, but being able to implement them is key, right? So, and this is how this is like the homework in which you actually show that you're going to be able to do what you're going to do. But very importantly, it is because depending on this is how the disbursement is going to be made. As Joy was mentioning a while ago, in this project, we're going to pay by tranches. And the payments are going to be depending on the milestones that are reached. So there has to be some indicators that tell us that you're doing progress. And the only way to do it is if your project is well designed in that regard. Now, many people don't know how to do this. Many people don't know how to do this. That's why we understand we're going to have people who know how to do this help you with that. Okay? So the first part is, okay, the proposal in itself, is it a good plan? Does it have clear objectives that are observable and measurable? I mean, if you tell me, oh, actually, I'm going to have this fantastic training program, but I don't really know when. Are people going to be trained? I don't know who is going to be trained. But I'm going to train them, and it's actually cool. No, right? We need to see, because we're going to allocate public funds, right? Based on a schedule. The second part are the relevant activities connected to the objectives and the targets. This sounds silly, but I mean, people who write projects notice sometimes that people, it takes a while. So we say, okay, I'm going to, my objective is to train people, but I'm actually not going to train people yeah, I'm going to do some curriculum development. I mean, something that is inconsistent, right? The third part is there a clear operational description for the activities, describing who is going to do each activity, where and when? Is there a clear sequential order? So if you're going to do training based on a curriculum development, then you have to show us a schedule where the curriculum development goes first and the training goes second. And there's, you know, and that is important. And then because, again, the payments are going to be done depending on how you attain specific goals. This is a question that is important, and Joy was mentioning it. What funding is eligible? In this project, you can use the funding not only for services but also for capital goods, right? Or purchase of supplies. We understand that if we're going to provide training, you don't only need to pay wages to the trainees, to the trainers, but you also need capital goods. You may need, oh, okay, I need to buy the license for a software, or maybe I actually need to hire a room, so that a classroom to train my people. We understand that those purchases are important. So there is a rule that is defined by the procurement rules of the IDB, and you're gonna have details on that later. But the rule states that you can actually purchase capital goods, okay? However, there is a restriction. We don't want, I was telling the example, we don't want the partnerships to use the money to remodel their office, right? So there is gonna be restrictions, and the restrictions are basically in terms of the amount of the funding that can be allocated to the capital goods, and also the fact that it has to be clear that the capital goods are related to the training program. Okay? Common sense. But it's important, it's going to be part of the... This is key for the evaluation, of course. There are the key measurable indicators connected to the objectives. I discussed that a while ago. I mean, I need to see when are you going to train people. 10 people are going to be trained by June 10th. Okay? And is there one curriculum is going to be developed by April 15, observable, measurable, with a date. Okay? And whether there is clarity about the attributions, role, responsibilities of the different members of the partnership. Okay, I am partnership with you. You are going to do the curriculum development, and I'm going to do the training. When, on that date, who is going to be doing that? Well, Geoff Fieldsend is going to be doing that. Okay, so we understand that there is a project and that you have thought that who is going to be investing time in doing what. It's not like anybody's going to do it. You're going to be spending money. That means that you have to include this in your work plan and show it to us. Right? It's public funding. So it's very important. Paid by taxpayers. Okay? Not to be wasted. Fourth, the budget, the cost per trainee, and the investment made by partners. This is not, I mean, we understand that if you're very cheap, you lose quality. So I'm not saying that we're going to give the funding to the cheapest project on earth. But there has to be some sort of efficiency signal, right? And realism and right. So is there a clear and feasible budget plan? Are the costs realistic? Are goods fully and clearly described and not lumped into abstract categories? So if you tell me miscellaneous, right? You see those budgets that says miscellaneous or unforeseen costs. Contingencies, exactly, contingencies. No. Okay? Is there clarity about what are the partners financing with their own resources? What is their cost contribution? We had very interesting discussions about this because some other projects actually are like, there are projects similar to this where there's actually a matching grant, right? The partnerships have to show us exactly, have to show that they're going to be investing, I don't know, 30% of the total project. We're not going to ask for that. Partly because, as I've said before, we are very aware of our ignorance, and part of what we're doing here is also learn about this industry and learn about its possibilities, and we weren't sure whether we were going to be making a mistake, but asking for things that weren't really realistic. We didn't want to have lots of a very strict criteria of cost contribution, because we were scared that this would restrict the possibility of the smaller firms, okay? Having said that, this is very important because it also shows the level of commitment and the relevance. If a firm shows us that they're investing their time, their energy, they're including this as a key part of their work plan, it's not only a signal of relevance, but it's also a signal of the success of the implementation. And that is something that we are very aware of. The clarity of the project and the clarity of the budget is not only important for us to see that this is a good plan in itself, but this is a plan that will be properly executed. So if we see that there is a lot of commitment and there is, okay, I'm a thriving new small entrepreneur, I'm partnering here, I really don't have funding to do this, that is the reason why I'm applying for this in the workplace, but I'm going to work my hell out of this project because it's very important for me, so I'm going to spend half of my week only on this, good. All right? Is there a measure of cost effectiveness or an estimated cost for trainee? This is an interesting indicator. We learned this from the project in Barbados. The cost per trainee is not necessarily an indicator of the. It's a good summary of the fact that you've run some numbers. It doesn't mean that we are going necessarily to give the funding to the cheapest project, but it's a good measure for us and it's important for the Ministry of Planning also to know more or less. It's very informative. How much is it that how cost effective is the project? Okay. Now, quality assurance is, as we've discussed a while ago, important, right? And it's a challenge here because in Trinidad and Tobago and in most countries in Latin America, there's not necessarily a very organized quality assurance system that we can fall on in the country. I mean, there are some organizations that try to do this, but particularly in your industry, they're not necessarily up to date, right? So we've talked about that a lot, and we are opening to getting. And I did an intervention yesterday about it. We are open to having proposals from training providers that are not necessarily certified with the quality assurance in Trinidad and Tobago, right? So, for example, we have a very good proposal that is partnering up with an international organization that provides curriculum with very highly certified quality, but they are external. That's fine, okay. Same with industry standards. But what I want us to show is that you have showed us, you show this. You have thought about this, right? That you show that you've thought about the quality record of the provider, and that it is trustworthy, and that it is recognized in the industry. So, for example, Tracy was showing me right now a very interesting organization that provides nano degrees online for programming in robotics, something super sophisticated. And what they do, they provide these the certifications, and what they do is that they build them up with the industry in Silicon Valley. Fantastic. If there is if you can show in your proposal that that certification is well recognized by the industry in Silicon Valley that does robotics, that's perfect, okay? So this has to be proved. And the last one is sustainability. This is always an issue in in the IDB, because we have lots of projects that die after the IDB money ends. All the time, right? So sustainability has become like something that we care for a lot. Of course, when the money is depleted, the money is depleted, and but if you can show us that there is some long-lasting investment or that you're starting with an initiative that is going to be there in some way after the money is depleted, that will help your proposal too. I'm gonna say a final. I'm gonna say something. That's it for me. But I'm going to say something else just to underscore a very important point that Joy was making before. And that is the fact that the project sometimes feels scratchy because it is an innovation. So it happens to us, and it will keep happening. That I'm pretty sure you're gonna come and you're gonna come up with this. Hey, can I apply with this proposal because I have this very fancy way of working out with a partnership and doing this curriculum development with a training provider that is really a business person, but it's not really a business person, but it's also a training provider because we're doing. I mean, and we're gonna be like, I don't know. I mean, I haven't thought about that before, right? And that is going to happen. But the official position that we're going to have is the rules of the game are the rules of the game that are published in the web page. If your proposal matches the eligibility rules on the web page, your project is eligible, right? So if you have an idea in which you are actually have the dual role of training provider, but you're also a business person, but you're partnering with another training provider, that's fantastic. Okay, which is, I guess, your question. If the proposal that you're making fits within the criteria that are already posted on the web page, your game you can apply. Having said that, if we get a proposal that is like using a loophole to do something that is not really germane to the spirit of the project, the chances that you get a good score are slim. Okay, so the presentation that I'm making is to show you what is the spirit of the proposal. The spirit of the proposal is employer ownership, ITeS growth, internationalization, skills that are driven by employers, but also an incentive for you to partner with the training providers. What we want to do here is for the world of education to have a closer dialogue with the world of work, in a sector that is innovating, cutting edge, and that can help this country grow out of the oil dependency. It is about cost effectiveness, it is about businesses, and it is about doing a good plan that is realistic and that you can show us that you can do it, that you're invested in it, that you care for it, and that is well thought, that we can observe, that if we're going to have to pay the money, we're not going to be scared that you're using the money for something that we don't really understand. That's it. Okay? Questions?
How do you account for project monitoring and evaluation people in this? A separate independent person. Usually some projects have them.
Yes, there will be. There will be somebody, of course. It's a very good question. There will be I mean, the model that we are planning for is similar to the one in Barbados. There will be, depending on the size of the project, there will be a team that is either large or not, of individuals that are monitoring and evaluation specialists that are going to come and monitor. I think it's stated in the concept now, but I don't really remember. But more or less what is going to happen is that you will, if you win this award, you're going to sign up a contract. The partnership is going to sign up a contract. The contract is basically saying that you are committing yourself to doing what you was in your proposal. That contract also states that you are going to allow for somebody to come and monitor your progress in certain indicators that are defined, performance indicators that are defined in the contract. That person has to be from the teams of Tracy's team, right? It's someone, and that person or persons will come and say, hey, this person did what they're supposed to do, so then so then the disbursement is triggered. So it is super important to have good indicators. This is why, and there's something else. You're gonna, if you win this award, you're going to have to go to a workshop that is going to teach you about IDB procurement rules. Incredibly boring, incredibly important. If you don't do that, you don't sign the contract. It's a condition. Are you gonna be tested to show us that you learned what was going to be done? Are you gonna have a contract, and you're gonna say you are gonna spend the money on what you're supposed to be spending? Okay?
You mentioned costs per trainee as one of the things that we could,
yes.
Right? Does that mean the cost of equipment for the trainee, or is that also like
the cost of the proposal?
All
of the proposal. So if my proposal as a whole is $1,000 and you're gonna train 10 people, then the cost for training per trainee is 10.
Okay. Is like, for example, some of the people we might be looking at are people that already have jobs, but they want to they're training after the job or something like that, right?
Those are trainees.
Right. Could those people be given a stipend to? Could that be part of the training then?
Yes.
All right. No. Well, I mean that is important because
it is super important. Super important, and I'm glad you brought up that point up.
Okay.
For example, somebody comes with a project for vulnerable youth, which is a possibility, right? Somebody comes with a project and say, oh, because we're going to allocate multiple awards, you know. So what was happening is that this has been very interesting, exciting, because we're starting to see different kinds of projects. Somebody comes with a project for vulnerable youth, and they say, look, I'm going to go to this super, super, super poor neighborhood in the middle of nowhere in Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm going to teach these young people that are very good at math how to code. But if I don't give them lunch, they won't be able to come. Of course, it's part of the project. And it's a reasonable cost. You know what I mean? But the people that are going to be evaluating this are people that are very keen on the cost effectiveness. So are you going to give them lobster, or are you going to give them a sandwich? I mean, you know what? The problem with this project is not going to be the eyes on the cost effectiveness. That is going to be the real thing here. Public funds we care for, and since we are innovating also in that regard, because we had to convince the government that it was important to have the employer ownership, and Geoff can attest to that. You have to trust them with the money. You have to, because otherwise, how are you going to be flexible and rapid and help them develop the skills in the way they want? Are you going to do all the procurement for them? You're going to go crazy. So you have to be able to give them the money and say, okay, fine, I buy that. But you have to be super vigilant. And I say, yes, we are going to be super vigilant. We know, I mean, the government. So and the IDB too. So I think that is going to be very important. On the other hand, we know that we want to deliver quality. We know that we want to deliver. So you say, oh, I'm going to go partner with this very, very trashy diploma mill, how you call it, that charges 5 TT per degree. So there's a trade-off between quality assurance and efficiency, and we know that the best proposals are going to be obvious, okay? Not obvious. We're going to look at that, okay?
Yeah, excuse, I have a question. It's about a handful of times now you all mention Barbados. will you all be able to provide some examples of those successes?
Yes, I would.
I think
Thanks for the question. I'm very proud of that project. I mean, I wasn't part of it, but my good colleague was. It was an IDB. It was an I'm very proud of my colleague. It was an IDB loan that they did in Barbados. It was beautiful, and it was an innovation in this regard, and the good results that they had were one of the reasons why we were able to do this. One very big reason why we were able to do this. So it was an employer ownership competitive fund for skills development. It was not restricted to the IT sector. It was for the whole economy. It had a different spirit because it was also mostly based on competency-based occupations. So it was a different kind. It was not so high-skilled as probably this project would be. But it was fantastic. It was fantastic. And it still exists. And it changed a lot the way the training fund that Barbados has is allocated. It actually changed the institutionality of the country. So it was great. I'll be happy to show you the link to the webpage.
Questions?
Thank you. Bullet item 4, clarity on what partners are financing with their own resources and the cost of their contribution. Yes. So let's say as a training provider, you have all the facilities in place. Would that be accounted for as the contribution?
Absolutely. I mean, the costs are thought of as economic costs, not necessarily financial costs. So it's also opportunity costs, right? So if you tell me, okay, this training provider is going to be partnering with us and they're going to be providing the facility, and in a way that means that they're not renting it for some other project, that means they're investing, right? Because if your project didn't exist, they would be renting out their project. Right? It's the same with the time that you allocate, right? I'm not investing money. That's like an investment in, not necessarily financial, but an investment in time or in is there a word for this in English? I don't remember. In kind. In kind. So you say, okay, I'm not investing money, but I'm spending all of my time and the time of my employees in this, so their wages are part of what you're investing in the end, right?
Will you be considering the track record of a company or group in delivering projects as in the consideration?
What do you mean by track? Yes, of course, that's a quality, that's the measure of quality. Mm-hmm. Okay. So just to be clear, the IDB is going to be in the selection panel. The selection panel is going to be told by this panel of experts, policymakers, private and public members, and one thing that is important is that they're going to be providing the input for the final decision, but the final decision is made by the Ministry of Planning with the non-objection of the IDB. That's how it works. And everybody that is not selected, there's going to be a timeline in which everybody that is not selected by this award is going to be entitled to ask why they weren't selected, and the management has to respond. And if we're lucky, we're going to have one of those problems that are good, which is that maybe we get lots of good projects and not all of them are selected, but then we can come to the ministry and tell them, let's do a second round. And some of you some of you who didn't win and had fantastic projects will already have done their homework, okay?
Okay, any more questions? I've noticed there's 3 questions on the whiteboard. It may not be for you, Carolina, to answer them, but perhaps if I just read them out and then we can see if we can deal with them now. If we can't deal with them now, then we'll deal with them by posting up a response on the website.
The total number of awards, one of the questions is what is the total number of awards that will be given? We don't know and we cannot know, because we have a cap, right? And there's a cap on the individual proposals, and it's a cap on the total money that can be allocated to the project. But if some proposals are below that cap, we may be able to allocate more projects than what was planned, okay? So we have some estimates, something with 5, 6, 7, we don't really know. Okay, we don't know. And we won't be able to know until we receive the proposals. But there won't be just one, because the cap is of every individual program is lower than the total cap of the total project. So we are around 5 or 6 can be allocated, but that is an estimate. Maybe there's 10.
Unless we didn't get sufficient quality proposals.
That's another possibility, that all the projects are terrible, which I don't think will happen, but it's a hypothetical.
Just saying.
And the ministry says, I'm not going to give the money. Okay. That's not going to happen, but could happen. Are there restrictions on which we can open
bank accounts?
Bank accounts. I don't understand the question. They're real. I mean.
I think if I can, maybe I can just explain. I think it's a real nightmare to open a bank account in this country. It's an absolute nightmare. So the question, both of the last 2 questions are whether we have the opportunity to open with non-commercial banks, unit trust. I'm going to answer your question in 2 ways. First, I'm not going to answer it because I can't. This is a question for procurement of the Ministry of Planning. Okay.
And the final say is for the Auditor General. Having said that, if you want to use to apply for $500,000 TT dollars, you have to do lots of homework. You have to earn them, even if that implies going through the nightmare of opening a bank account. Having said that, I don't know. I'm also a foreigner, and I've never opened bank accounts in TT, and I don't know what you mean, but...
I think you overestimate how far $500,000 TT dollars will go.
Maybe. I've got just 3 more questions. I'll just take them in order.
Well, the third question is related, and what is done sometimes is that there's an official banker, and accounts are set up with that official bank, and it helps with the administration of the funds. Rather than having 10 different banks, you have one banker. It helps with the fees, it helps with so many things. And the relationship between the bank and the funding institution and the persons who are receiving the funds is even easier.
Okay, so...
let me just scoot over here. Sorry, Tracy's got an answer to this, which is no.
All right, so the issue with that, it's a good idea, but we'll have to procure that. You can't just pick a bank, right? So therefore, this is why it's an employer-led situation. We are asking you, without the risk of commingling of funds, and we have to track the funds, to open an account, because most of you already have an account. So the issue with the opening a new account, my understanding, if you already have an account, is less problematic. You already have an account. Well, that's our understanding of the situation, because you already have a business account, right? Hang on. The issue about whether the funds can be tracked individually within your existing account, because I mean, for God's sake, you must have an account in the bank right now. Otherwise, what's going on, right? So you must have an account. No personal accounts, business accounts, and what can happen during contracting, because we had discussed this before, is you can find a way to track, if you can track your funds that are being delivered to the account, we can deal with that then. But the current thinking is that you have to open a separate account so that the funds can be properly audited and tracked. And it's not to have a dedicated bank because of that situation, it's to have a bank that you are using as part of your thing. Yeah?
We have to find out.
Yeah, that one I can't answer that one today. No.
Yeah, so actually what we're doing is that we're keeping track of all the questions that you have, and we're going to include them in the FAQ section of the webpage. Okay.
We've got one here and then 2 there.
Hi, my name is India Bristol. I'm for Fast Track Visual Effects Limited. My question is, well, you somewhat answered it, but I'm curious, if I go to the bank, given I'm just a small company, and I have to open a brand new account to do this. I'm thinking the bank will want to know, well, where is this amount of money coming from? And I have to answer.
Yeah, you'll have yes.
Is there going to be a way for you to probably supply me with a letter or something that makes it easier for me
you
to...
have a contract with the government, right? The partnership
Yes.
is going to have a contract with the government
that should... Okay, great.
Yeah, of course.
Another couple of questions here.
Yeah, so I just want to ask, I know the IDB projects are usually, the projects that have been funded are usually listed on the website so that you could see what the project was in different countries and that kind of thing. Would these successful projects here, would those be uploaded there as well? Or
That's a great idea. It would be very nice. Yes, we hadn't thought about it, but if we can tell a beautiful story, if the IDB can tell a beautiful story of how it helped as a new industry grow, believe me that we will want to tell everyone.
Okay, so that decision will
Yes.
be between the IDB and the ministry?
Yeah, and the Ministry of Planning, of course, we want to. Yes, it's a very, thanks for the question.
All right, thank you.
Carolina, Nigel here again. You said that you estimate roughly 5 or 7 awardees, right? Rough?
Rough.
Is if I understand correctly, it's 475,000 TT is the cap.
475 TT, right?
That's correct, yes? Per project.
Yes.
And what would you say is the cap of the entire? So you use a worst case scenario then. What's the cap of the entire project then?
I don't really know. I mean, it is an estimation. Okay, but it's an estimation.
Because 5 or 7 would put it around like 2.53 million TT. I thought it was a lot more than that. So I was found 5 or 7 sound a little low.
475,000 is low.
I thought that your estimate of 5 or 7 awardees was a little low. I thought it might have been like 50 or 60 awardees.
But there's not going to be even 50 proposals.
Not even that.
Proposals? 50?
No.
Maybe, I don't know. But it would be, yes. I mean, from our experience.
Can just,
Yes.
quiet please. Can you just have one meeting? Everybody's now chatting. Okay. Any more questions? Carolina, thank you very much.
No, I want to elaborate on that point. Imagine that there were 50 proposals, and we only can, and it would be possible that if we have a huge demand and beautiful proposals, and we can show them to the ministry and then to the government, if there is a possibility of us doing something about it, of course, this is the second round that we'll be talking about, okay? But it'll be a good problem to have, for not only for us, but for you guys. Okay, because what happened in Barbados was, I'm going to tell you the story of Barbados. What happened in Barbados was, Barbados had this fund for skills that was paid with payroll taxes, right? I was administered by a council, it's called the Tibet Council, that is a little bit like NTA, but not exactly like them, right? So they have this money, and they did what most governments do, which is basically provide training without asking the employers what they need. So that fund existed over there with those rules. And then the colleague that I'm very proud of came and designed a new project in Barbados with an IDB loan, and the money of the IDB loan was used for an employer-led skills fund. More or less what we're doing here with the Global Services Promotion Program. But the program was so successful that the other fund started to operating with the rules of the IDB loan. So it made a transformation, and the new skills fund is now employer-led. The old changed its rules. Okay? Basically because they were able to show And they were able to design an institutionality that will show the importance of employer ownership, the possibility of the country to design a partnership between training providers and employers, and also the fact that they could do it with accountability and with a good use of the public funds that was transparent. That's the 4 things that we need to show: demand and transparency in the use of the public funding, and impact. Right?
Okay, Carolina, there is one more question, which is from me, but it's also from Joy, because we had a conversation at the tea break, and if you remember, talking about the list of prescribed countries hasn't actually been touched upon. And I know that colleagues over there were talking about Australia, and we listed certain countries, hadn't we, as being eligible in terms of having quality assurance regimes that were recognised by the IDB. And we probably, if somebody wants to just touch on that, and whether we have any flexibility around that, I think.
Just a point that needed to be raised. There's a list of eligible countries that are IDB member countries. IDB, if you're doing a contractual relationship, a contractual obligation, have a contractual obligation with funds being used through an IDB-funded project. It must be with countries that are IDB member countries. And there is an approved list, and that list actually would exclude Australia, India, and a couple other. If you look on the website, you would see there's I believe it's in Annex 1. It's the IDB rules. There's a link to the IDB rules of procurement. That's some of the things that will be indicated, that'll be part of the training that for the successful bid awardees, but it's something that you would have to have notice of, and please go on research and look at it, because it will determine if you are using an external provider, you are restricted in terms of the origin of the companies and the providers that you may want to deal with, right? So that's just a note that you have to be very cognizant of.
The list is still very large, so the US and UK are part of the IDB. Okay. For example, US and UK are part of the IDB, yes.
Okay, well, thanks to Carolina. Let's move on to the concluding part of today. You'll notice we haven't dealt with 3 yet, and there's an issue of next steps and further support. Well, I think you've heard from Joy the timeline for what happens from here on in, but it is important to just reinforce the fact we're still planning some online clinics to help you, and also to potentially help your partner training providers as well. And Rhea and myself and 1 or 2 others will be available. Rhea's using this technology called Zoom, which is a bit like Skype, but it seems to work quite smoothly. So that's the arrangement that we're going to make, which means I don't have to make another flight over here for the time being. Okay, so that's the arrangement there. I mean, basically then I want to just move on to this final issue here. But before I do that, just a couple of things from the UK experience. The first attempt some 20 years ago to try to put resources in the hands of the people who actually needed those resources, in this case it's actually about individuals being given a grant to source their training, ended up with a huge fraud investigation with a training provider that actually fraudulently used that money. And the idea was killed for 20 years. And just want to say that because this is the kind of sensitivity that there is around trying to have a demand-led approach where people actually are asked to say, you're the purchaser, you decide what you want because you know what your needs are, rather than we give the money to somebody else we trust who doesn't know what your needs are and gives you what they can give you. And to try to twist it round so that it works the right way round is an experimental and risky business. So just wanted to kind of reinforce that point of the importance, and that's why some of this You will find sometimes the bureaucracy is impossible to avoid because public funding works that way, and you know it's inescapable. We will try to make it as smooth as possible. The second thing I wanted to do is to just use a word that I think encapsulates this approach and is very important, and that word is investment, because we are not seeing this as giving out grants. It's not about giving money to people because they make a case. It's because we want to see that this is going to be an investment for the future. So if you approach your proposal writing with that mentality, if you like, you are asking for an investment, so you have got to prove the return on that investment. You've got to prove the case that it's going to be in our interest. So think about it like a kind of, I don't know if you have this program. We have a program called Dragon's Den. Oh, yeah, it's that kind of thing. You've got to think a little bit like that. Okay. So finally then, we've just got a little bit of time. And so while the team are all here, we just thought you might want to start talking to each other if you've already formed a partnership with people on your tables, or just as an individual, just start thinking, jotting down some of your ideas. And then if you want to have some help from any of the team, put your hand up. Somebody will come to you and have a chat with you about what you think you might want to consider. And as a kind of memory jogger here, and I've added a few things following the conversations that we've had, there's effectively two roads to go down with all of this. There's a design and develop road, which has a clearer relationship to an investment for the future because you're building something that perhaps others can use, but perhaps doesn't have the immediate return that you're looking for. And so I've added there, for example, new niche provision because of the question that was asked yesterday. I've also added this issue about gamified training, because one of the people I spoke to outside the actual plenary was talking about how their training they could develop through animation, gamified training or recruitment or assessment applications. And all of that has to lead to some kind of formal accreditation, which has been talked about. And then there is the finding and accessing the right thing for you that's going to have an impact on your workforce or your potential workforce. And there are a range of different types of training provision that are listed there that are important. And we've talked a bit about blended learning, for example, as being one of the options that perhaps didn't get quite as much as a coverage or spotlight as perhaps we might have done in the short time we've had available. So really that's actually where I'd like to leave it today, with just the opportunity for however long you can spend. You know, we'll probably be here for the next half an hour or so, I guess. And so that's where we wanted to pause at this point. Are there any questions before we just break up into, you know, our own individual constituencies, as it were? Any last things that people want to ask?
I just had a last question about when will the procurement...
There's no microphone carrier.
When will the procurement workshop be?
Well, it'll obviously be post the awards, so it will be August, presumably, something like that.
After the awards, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what
Yeah. It's only for those that are successful. Anything else? No? Okay. Well, look, can I thank everybody? I've never been to a conference before where as many people turn up on the second day as the first. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing. So something went right. So, you know, fantastic. So I want to thank you all for the energy, time, commitment, difficult questions, you know, pointed questions. That was a really good session. I just hope you found it worthwhile. I want to thank all the team, all the people who are working on the on the technical side of things, to Carolina, Rhea, to Joy, all the speakers, and Kim for all of their input as well. And just wish you well, because you know, if you're not successful in this, and as Joy says, if this works well, there'll be other bites of the cherry. But hopefully as well, you've had an opportunity to start thinking about how we can all invest our time and resources, whether this is about the grant or not. You know, I hope this is creating a kind of culture within the IT and related sectors in Trinidad that is about a future-facing response for this country to really start to punch its weight in the world as an exporting country. So I would just suggest you give yourselves a round of applause and a round of applause to all the team. Thank you very much.
Just on an administrative note, you'll be hearing from us very soon with respect to the online clinics. I will be coordinating, and the team will be coordinating. So just stay tuned that we'll get in contact with you via email or phone. We will contact you. We do have your number. Make sure that you have signed the register, please. If there's anyone who has not yet signed the register. And you'll be hearing from us very soon with regards to the additional online clinic, which will be individual consultations, tailored consultations. So it will be individual consultations using Zoom for each proposal, right? We have lunch is going to be available in the next half an hour. So please feel free to go downstairs to Tiki Village and have lunch to conclude the day. And anything else? I think, and it'll be lovely if we get a group picture of everyone in the room. I'm gonna defer before lunch. I'm gonna defer to the professional photographer in the room. In terms of where and when that will happen. But please stick around, network, do a little bit of work, and don't leave just as yet. I know that there's some real issues going on out there in terms of traffic, so feel free to stay a little bit and chill until you get the chance to leave.